This is the plaintiff, Maria Dodaro. She says she hired the defendant, an architect, to help her prepare the permits to convert her house into a two-family dwelling. Well, $2,500 and 18 months later, she was denied because of an oversight on the defendant's part, and she wants her darn money back. The defendant's a hack who did nothing but waste her time, and that's why she's here today suing for the return of her hard-earned $2,500. This is the defendant, Tony Frida. He says he did indeed do a lot of work for the plaintiff, only took a retainer, and it is clearly stated retainers are non-refundable. He also makes it quite clear he doesn't guarantee any type of work. He just puts the necessary paperwork together and submits it in an attempt to pull a permit. He also came up with a viable solution for her to accomplish what she wanted to do, but the plaintiff refused. He's accused of doing a lot of nothing.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case in the docket. The plaintiff says the architect she hired screwed up the plans for her house and the building permit got rejected. But the defendant says his work was non-refundable. It's the case of the worst laid plans.
Thank you, Douglas. Giuseppe and Maria Dodaro?
Maria Dodaro, yes.
Okay, and you have power of attorney for Giuseppe?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You are suing your former architects, represented here by Tony Frida. You're the owner?
Yes.
Okay. For $2,500, a retainer fee that you paid them that you want returned to you. What happened?
We hired Tony back in 2014 of March. We bought a commercial unit over a one-family, and we
Wait,
called...
a one-family over commercial unit?
Yes. One family over a commercial, I'm sorry.
Got it.
We bought the house in January. We called Tony in March of 2014 to see if we can take the one family and make it a two-family, because it was a very large one-family
To
unit.
try to rent it out?
Correct,
Okay.
as two families instead of one.
Was the commercial part rented out or not yet?
When we called him, yes, we had already rented the entire bottom floor to the photo studio.
Okay.
We called Tony to see if we can have the second floor split into two legal apartments instead of just one family. When we had spoken in his office, he said he would have to come look at the apartment. So he came out and he did that, took some measurements, looked at the outside structure, did whatever he felt necessary to do, and sent me a contract a couple of days later.
Do you have that contract?
I do.
Let me see it. Did you discuss with him whether it even would be possible to do it?
Yes, that's what we called him for. We said, can we do this? You know, is it possible to do this two apartments on this one floor and the cellar, you know, our basement cellar floor?
And then what happened?
That was in 2014. So I called him every couple of weeks to check on the status. He didn't get back to me until March 16th of 2015.
Wait, how does a whole year pass? I mean, I know this stuff takes time, but it doesn't take that much time.
So I don't know.
Well, you weren't in that much of a hurry then.
I was, but, you know, I was kind of giving him the time. He kept saying, we're working on it, we're working on it.
Well, what were
So
they
I
working on?
His office was telling me on numerous occasions they were working on doing paperwork and they were trying to figure some stuff out.
So were you just leaving it up to them how it would be designed?
No, the one floor apartment already somewhat exists. We needed him to put in a second kitchen, but there was already two bathrooms. There was already rooms that were already kind of split up. So
did you have any discussions about where that kitchen would be?
Yes.
Okay.
So that was when he originally came before the
So in
contract.
1 year you didn't see a single drawing?
Nothing.
Nothing? Not even preliminaries? Nothing?
Nothing.
You would just call every what?
Every couple of weeks, because like I said, it wasn't like an emergency job. So he kept telling me that there were emergency jobs that were coming up, and you know if it was okay. And
Yeah, no, but I mean, a year is a long time. So what finally happened?
Finally, in February, like I got tired of it, and I'm like, this is crazy. It's been 11 months and I haven't seen anything. So
and you had already paid him how much?
He asked for $2,500 retainage upon receiving the signed contract.
So what happened?
So in March, finally, he told me that he was going to have one of his coworkers work on my paperwork because he had no time to do it. So he got his coworker involved. His coworker then started calling me and sending me plans, and this was in March 16th, 2015. So right away I started seeing plans and some kind of progress.
So you were happy?
Being done, yeah. So that took from March till June. He showed us everything, how it would look.
The
and
coworker.
everything. The coworker. In June, He was done, we were done, we finalized everything. In June, I said, okay, what's next now that we finalized the plans, everything looks good, what do we do? He says, you have to contact Tony to sign the application to submit the paperwork to the building department.
Okay.
I said, okay. I'm calling like every other day. What do I have to do with the application? What do I have to do with the application? I'm not hearing anything. The coworker tells me in August, his email isn't working. You have to send it to this other email. So I said, okay. So I start sending it to that email. I'm calling at the same time, like his receptionist is taking my calls. So finally then, the first week of August at some point, he calls me back.
Who does?
Tony. And he tells me, oh, your zoning does not qualify for a two-family.
What?
Over the commercial unit.
Your zoning doesn't permit it?
No. And I'm saying, what do you mean? You told me 18 months ago when you came, before I even signed a contract, you had to go back to your office to check the zoning, check the square footages, check everything. I said, what happened? And he answered me, I don't know. I was like, I couldn't believe it. So anyway.
Just stop. What happened?
Okay, well, basically they called me to see
Oh, you can fast forward a little.
Okay, so you can build two families there. If we increase the floor area, it would make the second apartment viable. If they wanted to enlarge the building, is to increase the floor area of the upper floor, the first floor.
What's viable mean?
Viable means that the first apartment has to be 925 square feet, and the second apartment should be a little bit
What
smaller.
should be? She doesn't want to do this
Okay,
other
so-
Wait a minute, no, I haven't asked my question. Other than building more building,
Yeah.
can, within her footprint that she has there, can there be a two-family apartment, yes or no?
Mathematically, yes.
So how?
Well, the second floor is 1,322 square feet. One apartment needs to be 925 square feet. So the other apartment, you have about 397 square feet left over. Now, at the end of the day, you might end up with a studio. And when I say viable, I mean that maybe that studio is not rentable in that area.
So here's my question, because I have a very simple question. Why did it take 18 months to realize that within that footprint you couldn't make two apartments?
Okay, so if the architect writes plans out or draws plans and it can't be done because the zoning commission rejects it, does the customer get the money back if it says non-refundable?
Yes, they do.
Why?
Because things like natural disasters happens. They had no idea that the plans were going to be rejected.
They who?
The
customer?
The customer and the architect.
How is it a natural disaster if there's
It's one of those small loopholes, like a natural disaster that may happen. You can't say if there's an earthquake or something like that.
an earthquake's a small loophole?
Well, yeah. Natural, non-refundable.
Do you realize that this bus could end up in the Pacific on that small loophole?
And I'll get, because we had no idea.
Right, going inside the courtroom.
So someone clearly drew two apartments, which is what the lady had asked for. And as it turns out, you drew something, your firm drew something that couldn't exist according to the law, correct? Because one of the two, by law, had to be 900 feet. You didn't draw them 900 feet. Yes or no?
Your Honor, the point is,
No, the point is answer my question.
I did draw whatever you see there.
Okay, so if you drew this, you drew something without checking the law. This is all news to you. You didn't check before you started this whole project 18 months earlier how big one of them had to be. You didn't check the zoning.
But I don't know that until I draw it.
Really?
Well, how would I know that?
Well, let's see. The whole space is how much?
1,322 square feet.
So making one of them 900 would make one of them, to quote you, unrentable. How do you escape the inescapable conclusion that you didn't know one of them had to be 900? Of course, you should know that 18 months earlier, right? So I would like to know how it is that you draw two things that can't possibly ever be approved, and then when you drop the bomb on her that, oh, wait, one of them has to be 900, you don't return her money. Tell me how it is that you that you didn't just botch it, steal 18 months that she can't get back because your firm didn't bother to research something that is apparently on the what website?
Department of Buildings.
Department of Building website.
All right, so the reason why it took so much time is because the records that are on file and the actual building are not the same. So there was an illegal extension made to the back of the building, which we didn't have records on at the building department.
That would have lessened the square
Stop.
footage. I'm
Just
sorry.
stop. I've done this
That-
without you my whole life.
Okay,
Mr. Frida, somebody came to you as a professional,
right.
paid you a $2,500 retainer because they wanted to make 2 apartments legal in that space. You tell them, no problem. You are hiring me to do that. You then draw it out to do that, and then you go, oh, whoops, what are the rest of me 900? We can't do any of this. You bothered to look it up at some point 18 months later. So you tell me what stopped you from doing that 18 months ago and not wasting 18 months of her and her husband's life and $2,500 of her hard-earned dollars.
Because she hasn't told you all the facts. The facts are that I did do a lot more work. I did measure.
Your work was worthless. It's disgraceful. Verdict for the plaintiff, $2,500 plus your court costs.
The defendant's right out here in the hallway after disgraceful and your hubris. And what do you have to say for yourself?
Well, I don't think that all the facts were stated correctly, and nothing was, the fact that I had to start the work and do all that work in order to get to that point to find out is just the way the business is done. I can't start working without getting a retainer.
It's not that you got the retainer, it's that you didn't return it.
Well, it's stated fully on the contract that it's non-refundable.
You think you did a good job for this lady?
Yes.
Okay. All right, right down this way. He says he did a good job for you, right?
Yep.
Didn't he?
He did not. I'm speechless. I think the judge was very fair in returning my money, but for him, I mean, he needs to do better at his job.
Uh-huh. All right, over to Harvey.
Well, here's the thing. The judge, properly, I think, said that this contract was so worthless because of what the architect did that essentially the customer gets to repudiate the contract and treat it like it never happened and get the money back.